We made $100,000. We split that. So I
Total,
took
yeah.
50, yeah. And I had no
Yeah.
idea what I was doing. And it was a win for the seller too. She ended up getting in a much better situation. She
Right.
ended up traveling the world. She became a digital nomad. So it was a really cool story between how it really benefited her and then I was able to make some money on my very first deal. And then I had no idea what I was doing.
His name is Russ. He bought that mic, and now he's got a podcast show.
Grew up in Greenville, South Carolina, which is not too far from where we are now in the Charleston, South Carolina market. And I grew up in a divorced household. My mom's side of the family was a bunch of lesbians and assless chaps. Can I say ass on here?
Yes, absolutely. You can say anything you want.
At biker bars. And my
Yes.
dad's side of the family was
Yes.
very conservative. I wouldn't, they're religious, but I had very much a dichotomy of my family, right? Because my
Wow.
parents were divorced, so I had this one wild side on my mom's side, and then my dad's side was a little bit more conservative. So that was an
Wow.
interesting childhood. And then as I grew up, I got into web development. So I started to like code my own MySpace when MySpace was cool back in the
Oh,
day,
yeah.
make it really pretty. And then that led me into getting into computer science. So I went to Clemson University, studied computer science, and then
Yes.
I left, got a job, an internship at a marketing agency, and started web development. So I was in computer software for a really long time. And then I ended up moving to Charleston in 2020, right in the middle of COVID, when everybody was struggling. I loved 2020. 2020 was my year. Everybody else struggled in 2020, but I ended up moving to Charleston because my sister-in-law opened up a business, Rehab Wallet. Russ has their hat on, and
That's Rehab Wallet.
thanks for repping the swag.
Hmm.
But we opened Rehab Wallet, and Kelly called me and said, "Hey, would you be interested in joining our team and kind of kicking it off with us?" And I said, "Yeah, absolutely. Count me in." So I switched gears 180, went from computer science into full blown real estate. So it was interesting.
Yes. Well, I remember you were still kind of the go-to person for technology when something broke.
Yeah.
I remember those early days.
It was funny
Definitely.
too, when I first came to real estate meetings, Kelly would often say, "What do you have to offer?" And I would say, "I don't really have anything to offer. I don't know anything about real estate." And Kelly's like, "That's not true. You know tons about web development, technology. Like you have plenty to offer.
Right.
It's just a different ball game. It's not real estate. It's technology, which is still useful."
Yeah, and my analogy of that is I only speak English and not very well. So if I need someone to speak Spanish, I'm going to have to find somebody else. So if I need someone to speak computer code, I'm going to have to go, as I would for a Spanish speaker, I'm going to have to go find somebody like Harris who can you just, and it was like clickety, clickety, click, okay, it's done. It's like, how, what? I remember several experiences like that with you a decade ago,
Yeah.
or 5 years ago anyway. So I know that you enjoyed music festivals and hula hooping and
Yeah.
some really fun stuff like that.
I went through I would call it a dark phase, but it really wasn't much of a dark phase. It was more of a wild phase. So I
Yeah,
went through a wild phase, and through that process, started going to music festivals, and I started to witness people hula hooping. And they would basically like roll staffs off their body. I don't know if you've ever seen anybody with a staff or fireballs, stuff like that. It was wild to watch. Aerial people in the air who would like swing on
right.
ropes and hula hoops and stuff. I once witnessed somebody hula hooping at a festival, and then they let me borrow their hula hoop, and I bought my own after that. I came home, I practiced every day. So now I'm like a undercover hula hoop master because I'll go
Yes.
outside with my dogs and I'll just hula hoop while I'm out there. And it's definitely a skill that is completely useless, but I love it, and it makes me release all that energy that I need to release
I'm
after
going to say
a
that's
hard
far
day.
from useless. If it gives you catharsis like that, it's better than drugs, right?
I will say it gives me cat-like reflexes. So if I drop
Yeah,
something, I can pretty much catch it.
this is true. I've
I
witnessed it.
love it. Absolutely love it. I don't know if you remember, but my mother and my sister and I were on a cruise in the Mediterranean a couple of years ago, and I sent you videos of a hula hooping act where she had LEDs in them, and she's standing on her head, twirling it with her foot, and I was like, Harris, you can do this. You can do all of this.
Maybe twirl it.
learn.
Stand, no, not have my foot in the air with a hula hoop on it.
I love that, the vision of you enjoying yourself in your backyard. And I've been to your house, or at least the one you used to live in. You've got a 6-foot-high fence, so nobody's going to see you. I mean,
Yeah.
you do what you want.
Yeah.
So I love it. So the technology, phasing into real estate, hanging on to that that vibe of the music festivals. You got a little color in your hair there.
Yeah.
You know, so the
Got
vibe
purple.
remains, and that's super cool. So I know you kind of stumbled into a flip deal.
I did.
Yeah, that's a really cool story. Can you tell us about
Yeah,
that?
of course. So when I first got into real estate, I was just working at Rehab Wallet, and I hadn't really been actively investing. I was just learning how to be a lender. So I saw on Facebook an old colleague of mine posted, I'm struggling to pay my mortgage. I'm in this situation. I need help. Can somebody connect me to a real estate agent that they like? And I reached out because I had been in these real estate groups with you, Russ, and other people in the Charleston area. And I said, listen, I know tons of real estate investors. It may not be the best solution for you, but let me know if you're interested, and I'll be happy to connect you with some of these people. I had no
Yeah.
intention of acquiring the property myself, but she ended up going to a real estate agent, and the agent said, I can't list your house because there was so much stuff in it.
Yeah,
She
the
just could not
condition
get
of it,
listed.
right.
Yep. The condition was bad. There was a leak. So ultimately, she decided to reach back out to me, and Sunshine and Kelly, my sister and sister-in-law, they went to the property, looked at it, talked to her, and we ended up buying the property sub 2 from her. So we bought it subject to. We gave her a little cash to get out of the property, and gave her some money when we first purchased it. And after about 3 months or so, we ended up listing that property on the market after flipping it, and we made $100,000 each. Well, not each, but we split that. So I
Total,
took
yeah.
50, yeah. So that was total. So that was like a unicorn of a deal, and I had no
Yeah.
idea what I was doing. And it was a win for the seller too. She ended up getting in a much better situation. She
Right.
ended up traveling the world. She became a digital nomad. So it was a really cool story between how it really benefited her, and then I was able to make some money on my very first deal. That I had
Some
no
money.
idea
You
what I
made
was doing.
$50,000. That's some money.
Yeah. I also learned through that deal, never change your own electrical boxes. Don't do that.
Tell me about that. What happened?
I think Sunshine said, we can do that ourselves. And Sunshine and I went
course
through
she
the whole
did.
house and changed
So
all the
Sunshine
light
is your sister.
switches.
Sunshine is your sister.
My sister, yep.
Yeah.
So we changed all the light switches, all the outlet boxes, and I was like, I'm never doing this again. I'll just pay
An
somebody to do
electrician
this.
can do it in like 30 seconds. It takes me about 30 minutes.
Yep.
So
That was never
I
again.
get it. That's funny. So those are the kind of lessons we learn in time. Like, I hate painting. I just hate it with a passion because I'm really bad at it, and my ADD kicks in, and I'm like, people say everybody can paint. I was like, not me. I can frame a house. I can roof a house. I can lay masonry blocks. I can do tile. I can't paint. I mean, it seems like the simplest thing in the world, but you hire a painter and he just knocks it out, and it takes me 18 hours to clean up the mess I made.
Just tell them it's abstract art.
Picasso.
So you mentioned something called sub 2,
Yeah.
and I want to address that just for a second with the definition. So your associate, who was kind of in trouble with this house, had a loan, and you were able to make a purchase subject to the mortgage in place, which in the business we call sub 2. And it's an important technique for people to understand because it takes so little money out of your pocket to get that deal done and to get the reward of $100,000 split with the partner who had 20 years experience beyond your experience and money that would be needed for the deal. So it makes perfect sense to put that kind of deal together. I don't want to get too deep in the weeds, but that's a really cool, if y'all have questions, people who are watching or listening, make a comment, ask more questions about that. I'm not going to go into it any deeper now, but just when you throw out the term, we bought it sub 2, you and I and Paul and, a lot of people know exactly what that means, but some people don't. So
That's fair.
I'm not going to give a study on it right now, but it's a great thing to comment on, people, if you're interested.
I'll add one more point, which is that the one cool
Sure.
thing about that deal is I didn't bring any money to that deal. All I brought
Right.
was my time.
Went to a bar, refused to shine, didn't buy no beer, and said, I tell you what, my name is Russ, and I bought the mic, so listen to my podcast show.